All right, let's get to the phone lines. There's nothing stupid about this program. The Springfield Tigers, year in, year out, they play solid baseball. And to talk about the 2021 edition of the Springfield Tigers, we bring in the skipper from the Springfield Tigers, Terry Dobson. Coach, how are you today, my good friend?
Good. Yourself?
I cannot complain. All right, so here we are, another spring, and for the first time in 2 years, we got ourselves some high school baseball. Let's talk a little bit about the talent that you have and how strange it was to begin practicing after about 2 years of not having any high school baseball.
Once you get on the saddle and ride a while, you forget. You don't forget some things. But I'm going to be honest with you. When we did start practicing, there were some items after we practiced during a week or so that I had to go back through my notes and look at to see that, we didn't do that. I got to get back and do this. So yes, there is some items that you forget to do that, I guess I'm a little overboard on tracking things like that, but I go back and I got notebooks filled with stuff to go over, so I had to do a lot of that to sort of catch up on things.
In 2019, the seniors and juniors were sophomores and freshmen. Did any of those kids that you have, your upperclassmen, were any of those kids involved in varsity baseball? Do you have any experience coming back, Coach?
I have very little experience coming back. I have two lettermen coming back, Mitchell Seymour and Nick. Basically, and Nick's out because of an injury in football. He has a broken bone in his back that basically he was to be my starting second baseman, leadoff hitter, and either number 2, number 3 pitcher. So him and Mitchell Seymour are the only two letter winners that I have back. There are a couple of the juniors that saw minimal action as freshmen on there, but they did not letter. So as far as experience goes, yes, I'm a little bit limited on experience.
For the freshmen and the sophomores, I mean, the last time we had high school baseball, they were in junior high. How fast is the transition, or how quick has the transition been for these kids to get on board with and be up to date with everything going on with baseball?
I was a little bit fortunate last year, even though not having a high school season. I want to say the majority of this year's sophomores and freshmen played summer baseball. So I'm a little bit fortunate in that area, but they were diverse on different teams in that and different ways of doing things. So sort of rounding them up and doing the things that we need to do. There's some changes and language, basically terms that are a little bit different than what they were using on their summer teams. But it's coming around. I mean, it's baseball's 101's baseball 101.
Terry Dobson, the head baseball coach of the Springfield Tigers, joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Coach, do you find yourself in a teaching type of year this year, more so than in previous years?
As in what?
Just the game in general. Is it because we didn't have baseball last year? Is there more of a teaching environment going on with the team?
Yes, absolutely. Like you said, with the freshmen and the sophomores, every year the freshmen, the terminology and things of that nature. But yes, there is more teaching, more stopping and going through things that in the past years I could tell they've been in the system long enough. We go over this, you remind them once, twice, and they got it, and you move forward. This year there's more repetition on various defensive skills, offensive mindset, things of that nature. Yes, there is more of that this year than there ever has been.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the early part of this 2021 campaign. Just a typical spring in northeastern Ohio. Some days the weather is absolutely glorious, and then you have days like April Fool's Day and today where it's cold, and you really probably aren't going to be able to play any baseball. Not that anyone would play any baseball today, or I would assume, but it's a typical hit and miss type of weather in northeastern Ohio. How has that affected you guys in terms of the amount of games you've played this year?
We've played one so far. We've played one. We could not get games scheduled. Last Saturday was the official opening of the season. We couldn't get games scheduled on Saturday, Saturday or Monday, Monday or Tuesday, but Lowellville was good enough basically to flip our Thursday's game to Tuesday, looking ahead at the weather. So that's the reason we did get one game in on there. But a normal procedure, like you said, for northeastern Ohio. 61 day in the wind chill today is in the teens. What the big issue is of not being able to go outside is the gym usage. When you have a softball JV teams, varsity teams having to use the gym, I got to take the older kids later in the evening, and sometimes we're not getting out of there until 8:30, going on 9 o'clock at night. Whereas if the weather was better, we're outside, and they're getting to get home, get to their books by 5 o'clock, 5:30.
The secret of scheduling in this area, and it's all based on a 27-game schedule, and correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, 27 is the maximum you're allowed to play in the state of Ohio. Is that correct?
Yeah, in regular season.
Yeah.
In regular season games.
So
yeah,
for 27 games, I mean your AD has to be really busy, and sometimes schedule 4 and 5 consecutive games, knowing you're not going to get that kind of string of luck in terms of Mother Nature, and you'll be fortunate to have 2 or 3 games played. Is that the direction you guys are going?
Yeah, absolutely. They extended the season, pushed tournaments back last year or 2 years ago it was, to extend the season longer, which tried, and the reason I was told they did this is because of the smaller schools or some schools not having enough pitching basically to do it like the larger schools, load up 4 or 5 games during the week and they have some arms. So they extended the season in days to get the regular season in before the tournaments start, to give more leeway between the games for those smaller schools that do not have the arms that would have to use pitchers repetitively, during the week and that. But yeah, it's you schedule games knowing that you're not going to get all of them in, and then you just our league basically leaves Wednesday open. If you get shut down on Monday or Tuesday, to schedule on Wednesday right away. Yes, that is a difficult call in northeastern Ohio, but you do schedule a bunch of them in a row knowing that you're not going to get it, and then the AD has to jump through hoops with other teams basically to try to get rescheduled and not bump non-conference games out, so you keep your amount of games that you want as close to 27 as possible.
Terry Dobson, the head baseball coach of the Springfield Tigers, joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. You brought up pitching, and the smaller schools, not a lot of pitching, and there's been a bunch of injuries, and I don't know if there's correlation between the fact we haven't had baseball, high school baseball, since 2019, but certainly there have been a rash of injuries. That has to certainly go into play in terms of how many pitches kids are going to be throwing early on in the campaign, I would imagine.
Yeah, we take an emphasis basically on trying to protect arms. And that's why I tell some of the kids coming in, you may have never pitched before, but we're going to teach you how to be a pitcher, just to cover some innings and that. We've been fortunate. Now, I will say this year I have one player that I was going to lean on to throw. He says his elbow hurts, but as of the last couple of days, he basically said he's okay to go. but during practice, we monitor pitching during the week, whether we have games or not. I mean, we strictly follow a throwing regimen, basically to try to prevent injuries to the arms on there. But yeah, I can see some of the schools that their players did not have the opportunity to play in the summer, or they chose not to, coming back in and wanting to go full tilt. And you got to watch them. You got to shut them down, whether they like it or not. I mean, you got to watch the pitch counts on these kids. So yes, I can see where some of the injuries, not because of some of the coaching, but because just of the players want to get at it because they've been away from it so long, that, and they overdo it, and and that's what happens.
And the bad part of inclement weather like we've had the last couple of days, if you start stringing up a long string of inclement weather, now all of a sudden you got to cram the remaining schedule into a certain amount of days, and that can wreak havoc on your team as well.
Correct. The off days, we still follow a pitching or throwing regimen. And sometimes it jumps around in that, but yes, if you lose games up front, they're jammed in the back end, and you've got to keep throwing the kids within the gyms. It just depends on whether they're your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pitcher, basically, of when you throw them, how much you throw them, looking ahead. But you got to get their arms built up that when it's needed, they're there. So it's a process, and we do have a process on strengthening kids' arms, even if we are not playing.
Terry Dobson, the head baseball coach of the Springfield Tigers, joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. All right, Coach, you're one game in, 1-0 on the campaign. Let's talk a little bit about your team. Who are you relying on? Who are some of your seniors on this team this year, Coach?
Well, Mitchell Seymour, basically, in my opinion, is one of the elite players in the area. He's been with me for, you say 4 years, even though we didn't play last year. He started for me as a freshman in the outfield. He'll be one of the premier pitchers, I believe, should be in the area this year. Also playing middle infield for us as a senior. He is a preferred walk-on pitcher at YSU. Another senior is Nate LeBoy, that basically will be playing the outfield and batting somewhere in the middle of the order. And then moving from there, we're going to be a heavy junior sophomore team is where we're going to be on there. So there's a lot of younger kids basically that we're going to lean on, as far as Aaron Groner, Braden Butler, Ethan Mannion, AJ Stallsmith, and every time I start naming kids, I know I'm going to forget somebody, and then I'm going to hear about it.
Of course, that is par for the course. We know that very well.
Wood, Vincent Wood, Shondell Gardner. A lot of those are the juniors and sophomores that are going to come up. And I've got and we had talked briefly on this about jamming some of the games in because of the weather and that. I will be committed to bringing up some of the freshmen to put on the mound to throw. We've got some freshman kids that can throw off the mound at the varsity level.
Yeah, that's always a really, really good thing. One thing I love about Springfield, they'll play anyone, anytime, anywhere. Give us a little taste of your non-conference schedule, because I know Springfield likes to push the envelope in terms of scheduling up.
Yeah, we don't hold back, and my feeling on it basically is how are you going to get better unless you play better teams? I mean, point blank, period. We've got Boardman, we've got Ursuline, we've got Mooney. We scrimmaged Canfield, and then they brought back the prom, and we had to dump that game because of the prom. I'm just thinking Mooney, Ursuline, Boardman. I know we had Canfield. And I don't have the schedule here in front of me, but we go down to Minerva. We play down at Minerva. We bring in Garfield in here to play in a tri-way doubleheader on a Saturday. So yeah, I mean we we try to upgrade or try to go to the top, basically play as many as we can to get better.
And the Mahoning Valley Athletic Conference, whether it's the Scarlet tier or the Gray tier, there's some good baseball. It's a fantastic conference, no matter the sport. It is a fantastic conference with D3 and D4 schools in basketball and baseball, D5, D6, D7 schools in football. The competition in the MVAC is a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate in the past couple of years to come out on top, and you know, it's always a fight. So, I mean, that's phase one of our season, and then we move on to phase two in the tournaments, and we got different goals that we shoot for, but we got to get to goal one before we can get to goal two.
Are you guys D3 or D4 this year in baseball, Coach?
We are D3 based off of the count, what was it, 2 years ago or something like that. As far as what I'm being told, as far as our head count is right now, is we should be D4, but we're D3. We're locked in because they do it every 2 years.
Well, listen, I mean, it bodes well for the program. Year in, year out, this program is always fantastic. But D3 this year, and I'd never want to skip ahead when it comes to baseball, but you can't help but notice D3 is going to be absolutely crazy come tournament time because there are a ton of high-quality Division III teams this year in this area.
Absolutely, 100%. You are 100% hit the nail on the head there. I looked at the breakdown on the D3 in northeastern Ohio. It's very strong, very, very strong this year with teams in there that are going to be good. Yes, I agree 100% with you.
Well, Coach, I can't wait to see your product. I know that Mother Nature's kind of held you guys back a little bit, but hopefully the weather clears consistently and we get the Tigers on the field. I know that year in, year out, you guys boast a really tough and very fundamentally sound baseball team, and I look forward to seeing more of the same this year with Springfield.
Oh, I appreciate that, and we try to, and there's a lot of work yet to be done.
I know that, Coach. I can only imagine. But best of luck to you. And hey, before we let you go, give your coaches a little bit of credit as well. Who are the folks helping you out on this team this year?
Corey Snyder has been with me basically from the beginning. He helped Coach Weimer before me. I believe he was with Coach Beam also. My age is starting to tell here. I can't remember things. But I believe he was with Coach Beam, Weimer, and now with me, so I'm very fortunate. Coach Mike O'Hara from over in Struthers has come on this year to run the JV program, and just solid individual. And Jim Fantone, which is a teacher over at Columbiana, he used to coach baseball down in Beaver, Pennsylvania. He's come on also to help with the JV program. So I've been very, very lucky and very fortunate to have these coaches along with me.
Coach, best of luck to you and your staff and your kids this year, and we look forward to seeing you play many games with Springfield this year.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
You got it, sir. Terry Dobson, he is the head baseball coach of the Springfield Tigers.